Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Back to Canto 10, Srimad Bhagavatam. Been quite a while. It's been nearly 2 months, something like that, since we began this exercise of taking chapters from Canto 10. On Sunday at the temple, mentioned that I'd nearly completed chapter 14. Chapter 14, the main part of chapter 14 is prayers by Lord Brahma to Krishna, but the prayers have finished this chapter. And this is now Shukadeva Goswami answering some questions of Maharaj Parikshit after having heard Brahma's prayers. So I'll just read, it's starting for those who want to follow along. 10:14:58 was the last verse, and now I'm going to start with 59. This 10:14:58 is a famous verse. Samashataye parapallavam plavam mahatpadam punya yasho marare bhavam buddhir vatsa padam param padam 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 yadvi padam natesham. Lots of alliteration. And a celebrated verse, vatsa padam. Vatsa means a calf. Vatsa padam is the hoof print of a calf. So the water that's in the hoof print of a calf is easily crossed over by one who has taken shelter of the lotus feet of Murari. The killer of the Mura demon. For those who have accepted the boat of the lotus feet of the Lord, Samasha Taye Pada Palavam Plavam, who is the shelter of the cosmic manifestation Mahatpadam, Punya Yashomarare, and is famous as Murari, the enemy of the Mura demon, the ocean of the material world, Bhavam Buddhir, Ambudhi means ocean, and Bhava means material existence, the ocean of material existence, Bhavam Buddhir, Vatsapadam, Parampadam, is like the water contained in a calf's hoof print. Their goal is Param Padam, or Vaikuntha, the place where there are no material miseries. Not the place where there is danger at every step. Yadvi Padam Natesham. Read it again, it's nice. The Sanskrit is really nice. The English meaning is nice too. For those who have accepted the boat of the lotus feet of the Lord, who is the shelter of the cosmic manifestation and is famous as Murari, the enemy of the Mura demon, the ocean of the material world is like the water contained in a calf's hoof print, the ocean of the material world. Their goal is Parampadam, Vaikuntha, the place where there are no material miseries, not the place where there is danger at every step. Celebrated verse. And then the next, so Shukadeva Goswami speaking. Since you inquired from me, I have fully described to you those activities of Lord Hari that were performed in his 5th year, but not celebrated until his 6th. That is to say, chapter 15 is about the details of what happened in his during that 1 year that passed where Krishna was functioning as the calves and cowherd boys for the whole of Braja. It wasn't spoken about until his 6th year back in Vrindavan. The time lapse wasn't even noticed. And they spoke about, they spoke of the cowherd boys when they went back. The original cowherd boys kind of were like under amnesia or something for 1 year. And when they went back, they spoke about the killing of Aghasura as if it happened that day, although 1 year had passed. So Maharaj Pariksit picked up on it and said, what happened? How come they just spoke about the killing of Aghasura as having happened that day, although 1 whole year had passed? So that's why. I mean, it doesn't say where the cowherd boys were, other than saying the cowherd boys, when that 1 year passed, Krishna went back to look for having looked for the calves and cowherd boys, and there they were, having lunch, just as they were 1 year before. And they said, oh, you're so attached, you can't get away from us for a moment. Sit down, let's have lunch. And they were by the bank of the river Jamuna, just like they were before, 1 year later, except they looked 1 year older. Between 5 and 6, boys grow pretty quickly. Their bodies matured, but they didn't even recognize the time lapse by Yogamaya's influence. And can you imagine a 5-year-old boy for a whole year eating nothing? It's one thing, you fast on Nirjala Ekadasi or something, but it's Yogamaya, because it doesn't happen otherwise. But they didn't know. They didn't even know anything. That's Yogamaya. Very mystical. Vishwanath Chakravarti, there's no BBT commentary. Vishwanath writes, in this way, the final object of love has been proved. Only by taking shelter of his lotus feet does one get liberated and finally realize him. The outstanding position of the devotee is thus made clear. Now, punya here means attractive. Murari is decorated with all attractive qualities. Punya Yasho Murari. Punya Yasho. Yasho is famous. One who takes shelter completely, sam or samyak ashrita, one who takes shelter completely of the devotees, Mahatpadam, of Murari, endowed with attractive qualities, who are like a boat, plavam, does not even think how to cross the material ocean. His goal is the eternal dham of Vrindavan or Vaikuntha, parampadam. He never falls into difficulty, vippadam, as his mind is not attached to anything except the lotus feet of Krishna. And both Jiva and Sanatan just write, what was asked has been described. Okay, that was text 59. Here's text 60, 10, 14, 60. Any person who hears or chants these pastimes Lord Murari performed with his cowherd friends, the killing of Aghasura, the taking of lunch on the forest grass, the Lord's manifestation of transcendental forms, and the wonderful prayers offered by Lord Brahma, is sure to achieve all his spiritual desires. Purport, BBT purport. According to Srila Sanatana Goswami, even one who is only inclined to hear the chanting of the pastimes of Lord Krishna will achieve spiritual perfection. Many devotees seriously engaged in propagating Krishna consciousness are often so busy they cannot chant and hear the pastimes of the Lord to their full satisfaction. However, simply by their intense desire to always chant and hear about Lord Krishna, they will achieve spiritual perfection. Of course, as far as possible, one should actually vibrate these transcendental pastimes of the Lord. Some nice commentary. This is by Vishwanath. Surid bihi charitam, or actions with his friends, refers to his playing, as described in such verses as 10, 12, 5. That's 2 chapters before, but chapter 12 is a very detailed, lengthy description of the playful activities of the boys when they went out to herd the cows, or calves, because it's still they're 5 years old, calves. Anyone who hears or chants about Krishna playing with the boys, Krishna killing Aghasura, Krishna eating in the forest covered with lush grass, Krishna's non-material form, and the great and thorough prayers of Brahma, has all his desires fulfilled. Jiva Goswami writes, in answer to whether Brahma's prayers were successful, this verse answers with Kai Mutya. Vyaktetarad means non-material. All the topics listed are included within one story. The effect is achieved because all the pastimes happened through the activities of the Lord Swarup Shakti. Even having an inclination for hearing and chanting the story has effect, because the effect arises in a subtle manner. Any man receives the effect. There is no qualification necessary. Sanatana Goswami. What can be said? Those who take shelter of the Lord's feet attain this result. By hearing these pastimes of Krishna, one attains all perfection. Hearing all the actions that he performed with his friends, such as killing Aghasura, having lunch in the forest, showing many forms, and hearing the praise by Brahma, one attains all desires. Krishna was in his normal form, and the boys were also. The prayers of Brahma are included in the activities he performed with the boys because they are glorified there. Other activities, like stealing from each other, are not mentioned because they are included in the killing of Aghasura. Vyaktetatrat can mean beyond matter, and it can modify all the items in the list, since the pastimes are most astonishing. Any man without qualification can achieve success. And the final little commentary is Krama Sandarbha by Jiva Goswami. In answer to whether Brahma's prayers were successful, this verse answers with Kai Mutya. And that's text number 60. Here's text 61. In this way, the boys spent their childhood in the land of Vrindavan, playing hide and go seek, building play bridges, jumping about like monkeys, and engaging in many other games. BBT purport. According to Srila Sanatana Goswami, the word Nilayanai refers to games such as hide and seek, cops and robbers. Sometimes the boys would jump like the monkeys in Lord Ramachandra's army, and then enact the building of the bridge to Sri Lanka by constructing play bridges in lakes or ponds. Sometimes the boys would imitate the pastime of churning the ocean of milk, and sometimes they would play catch with balls. We can find full pleasure in the spiritual world with the simple condition that everything be performed in pure love of Godhead, Krishna consciousness. Vishwanath Chakrabarti writes, King Parikshit had asked the question, quote, O sage, O great sage, How could things done in the past have been described as being done in the present? Lord Sri Krishna performed this pastime of killing Aghasura during his Kumara age. How then, during his Poganda age, from the 5th year, could the boys have described this incident as having happened recently? That's going back to chapter 12. The answer having been completed, Shukadev now continues to narrate the pastimes. Krishna and Balaram spent their time secretly in Braja, playing hide and seek, Nila Yanai, building a bridge to Lanka, and enacting pastimes of other avatars, such as churning the milk ocean. And Jiva Goswami writes, this verse summarizes the Kumara pastimes, meaning the 5th year is closed, the 6th year is beginning. Evam indicates that the list is only representative of many activities. Jahutuhu means they performed activities. They did not perform their activities in any other place because Braja was most attractive. Nilayana is hide and seek. They jumped about like monkeys and imitated Ram's pastimes of building a bridge. The plural is used to indicate that they did these activities repeatedly. They imitated warriors' postures with protection through mantras and yantras. And Sanatan Goswami comments, having described the Kumara pastimes of the Lord, other pastimes of the two brothers following after the Poganda period, which is to be described, are indicated by summarizing the actions. The two boys, surrounded by friends, passed the Kumara period in this manner. During the Kumara period, they did not go beyond Braja. This indicates the excellence of Braja. Nilayana means hide and seek, or it can refer to stealing or hiding, described in 10:37:27. They built dams out of earth where the river was flowing, or, while playing in the water, they built a bridge in a pond, pretending to be monkeys from Ram's pastimes. That is west of the birthplace in Mathura. The plural is used to indicate again and again they performed these pastimes. Adibihi indicates games, like playing ball. So that's the conclusion of Krishna's 5th year. And because we all didn't participate together in hearing the whole thing, because we got interrupted by 2 months worth of other things. The flow isn't, fresh in our memory. But the 10th canto, the whole of the Srimad Bhagavatam, and focus especially in this 10th canto, are periods of Krishna's life where certain types of leelas are prominent. Like the childhood pastimes, the parental rasa is prominent. And it's not just Mother Jasoda and Nanda Maharaj, they're very strongly present in Krishna's childhood pastimes, but all the associates, their friends, they shared the same affection for Krishna, that it's said they had affection for when they were doing their household duties. Their consciousness was they're doing them for Krishna, even though he wasn't their son. Those of you that are mothers, imagine you're doing what you're doing in your household for another child other than your own children. That's the kind of affection the residents of Vrindavan have. Even when they're doing their household chores, they're doing for Krishna. They're so absorbed. And the flow of the childhood pastimes has now moved into his boyhood pastimes. And the boyhood pastimes, the parents just have to take a back seat because Krishna's out all day long with the cowherd boys. There's a really nice chapter following the Krishna's childhood pastimes, his youth pastimes, comes the pastimes with the gopis. And there's a whole chapter where the gopis are so attached. Forget which chapter number, 35, I think. It's the chapter has an introductory verse that sets the stage, and then each of the other verses is in pairs. It's the Song of the Gopis, or Gopi Gita, and they're thinking of what Krishna is doing. It starts with focusing on the sound of his flute as he enters the forest, calling the cows. And then the sound of the flute echoes off the trees, and what the sound of the flute does to the trees and to the birds and to the forest animals and the water and, everybody. And their minds are with Krishna, even they're not with Krishna. That's the kind of, and then it's the end of the day and he's late, and Mother Yasoda is anxiety. Oh, he's late. And they, in their mind, they go to Mother Yasoda and appease her. Don't worry. He's with his friends. They just took bath at the end of the day in the river Jamuna, and just now they're playing on the banks, the sandy banks of the river Jamuna. And don't worry, just now the demigods have come, because at the end of the day they've come before Krishna to pay their respects. So your son will come back blessed by the demigods. Don't worry, he'll be back soon. And it's constant meditation. Constant meditation. It's spontaneous. They don't have to, get up and do sadhana. We have to get up and do sadhana. But they're on this spontaneous platform that they don't have to make effort. The nature of Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, if one has immersed oneself in understanding Krishna from the earlier cantos, then it's the contrasting position of Vaikuntha and Vrindavan. The super excellence of Vrindavan is it's all spontaneous. And things that are of this world, we mentioned this yesterday, or this morning, things that are of this world, not good qualities, possessed in the spiritual, in the Vrindavan, they're good qualities. Like, for example, this quality of possessiveness. And they're really possessive to Krishna. It's repeated over and over again. The cowherd boys are like that too. He's our dear friend. And they're very possessive of him. Tomorrow evening, for the group of Chinese devotees, we're going to be discussing Dhenukasura. It's one of the pastimes Krishna performs in this next section of his Leela. And the description that's there in the Bhagavatam is pretty straightforward as far as what the cowherd boys do. But there's this other esoteric description where the cowherd boys, they have sticks and they have clubs and they whack Dhenukasura and they kick him, and two of them pick him up and throw him in a tree, and they want to help Krishna. Like Krishna needs help, right? They feel protected by him, but they also feel this kind of affection where they want to help. Somehow. And it's, the affection, besides the affection is spontaneous, and the affection is with no understanding of Krishna as God. Like, related around the same, just after this Kaishore period ends and the Puganda period ends, is when the Bakasura demon comes. Baka was sent by King Kamsa. So Baka had the mystic power of shape changing, so he assumed this giant Baka shape. And when the cowherd boys saw this big thing that normally isn't there, they wondered what it was, and they started running. Something similar to what happened with Agasura. They started running out of fear. The other boys said, no, no, no. And when Krishna boldly approached Baka, knowing exactly what would happen because he's omniscient, Baka grabbed him with his beak. And when Krishna was grabbed in the beak of Bakasura, he didn't go past his mouth, but he was purifying him by being in his mouth, like he purified Agasura by being in his mouth. And they were brothers, Agasura and Baka. They're brothers. Brothers of Putana. So, in his mouth, they all fainted. Even Balaram fainted. Because Balaram's omniscient. Balaram's omniscient. So it's not that he didn't know, but he has such affection for Krishna that when he saw Krishna in the mouth of Baka, he fainted. And that's all Krishna needed. They weren't watching, so he then expanded his body. It became, impossible for Baka to keep in his mouth. And then when Krishna bifurcated him, it was, yay! Let's go back and tell everybody in Vrindavan. It's just kind of unimaginable. It's unimaginable. The way in which the cowherd boys relate to Krishna. The very special rasa. There's friendship, and then there's friendship with Krishna. Very special. And notable, these childhood pastimes, where do we find them in any other forms of Godhead? In Ramayana, there's very little mention of the childhood activities of the four brothers. Very little. And in the Bhagavatam, there's abundant and very celebrated and very charming pastimes. Here's something that I learned from getting absorbed in this 10th canto that was a little surprising. So it may be surprising to you to hear. But very clearly, there's multiple sources of reference that say that in Goloka Vrindavan, in the spiritual world, Krishna's age is eternally 16. Which means these pastimes that we're describing and hearing they're not manifest in Goloka Vrindavan. They're manifest in this realm, Gokula, but they're not manifest. There's the sense, the bhava of those relationships because it's a transcendental emotion. But the leela is not manifest. It's there say it again, it's there in the bhava form, but not in the leela form. And so there's something very special about Krishna's leela. He exhibits these pastimes, and those who are his associates, they engage with him in those pastimes. So it's very attractive for them as well as for us. And the purpose is, of course, Krishna's enjoyment, but at the same time attracting us to Krishna, because very attractive, most attractive. And it provides, as far as our Rupa Goswami and Lord Chaitanya's followers' teaching is concerned, to become the followers of these eternal associates of Krishna. The eternal associates of Krishna, they're ragatmikas, because they're absorbed in raga. Naturally, spontaneously, they don't have to do anything. They're naturally manifesting that raga. And to become followers of such persons, not imitators, but followers of such persons, is the way for spontaneous devotional service to awaken. And without that spontaneous devotional service, without the raga of the residents of Vrindavan, you don't go to Vrindavan. One must become followers of such persons. At the proper stage of bhakti, that's entrance into, that's Lord Chaitanya's teaching and the teaching of Rupa Goswami. That's entrance into the pastimes. The all-attractive pastimes means it stimulates love for Krishna like that. And as that love for Krishna is stimulated by hearing, chanting, remembering, etc., then those moods in the elevated stages of bhakti, that's what one carries in one's heart. And then all of the things that one does. Now that's gradual, mature stage of bhakti, but all the things that one does in one's daily activities. The activities are performed as they were before. The vidhis and the rules and regulations of sadhana bhakti are observed. And at the same time, there's a spontaneous attraction for Krishna through remembrance, hearing, and chanting, etc. And that's our lives. And going back to one of the earlier verses in this chapter 14, how to get there. Sthanes tatak. Stay in your position. Shrutikatam tanavan manobir. And just hear these activities. Hear, chant, and remember. In the association of other like-minded persons, which is why we have our morning and evening discussions. The whole of the Srimad Bhagavatam is like that. What's the message of Krishna? What's the message about Krishna? Jnane prayasa udapasya namanta eva. Jivanti sanmukaritam bhavadiya vartam sthanes tatak. It's such a nice verse. It's the essence of our lives as Krishna conscious devotees, doing what we're doing. Hearing, chanting, remembering, trying to meditate on, trying to understand, trying to appreciate, trying to relish, discussing different topics in relation to Krishna. It purifies. Okay, let's see if there's some discussion. We finished chapter 14. Tomorrow begins chapter 15. I'm looking your way because you usually have a nice question or two or three. You ready? Here comes the microphone.
Every time I hear...
Take your mask away while you're speaking, if you would. Thanks.
So every time I hear this Brahma prayers from you, we heard this so many times on the online during these COVID times when you were giving lecture in several places.
Yeah.
Me and my wife love the 14.8, 14.8 and the 14.3, this verse that you referred. We always, loved hear that Stani, when you pronounce that thing, we used to listen to that so many times repeatedly. It is so beautiful.
It goes in. You hear it again and again, and it just goes in and it stays with you.
Yeah. And, thank you for that. And you keep remembering, we keep remembering whenever you say, even though I forget, when you say that, again we keep remembering. Okay, oh, Maharaj tells that again and again and again. So that's so beautiful, and I like it. I want this to go on and on. Thank you so much, Maharaj.
Samashataye padapallavam plavam. That's another verse. Mahatpadam punyasho marari. I'm not really a sloka person like some people are.
That sloka, the way you explain that sloka, I love that, because you are so involved when you explain that, like that's what is.
That's Krishna meditation. Some verses, some passages from the Bhagavatam somehow take a prominence in one's consciousness, and it's really relishable to share them. Appreciate. So thank you for your appreciation. It's nice. Anyone else? Okay.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. I have two questions. So during the pandemic time, we have a reading group.
Yeah.
And we are reading currently 4th canto, Guru Maharaj pastime.
Okay.
We read Monday through Saturday, 1 hour in the evening.
1 hour?
Every day, Monday through
Every
Saturday.
day?
So you were mentioning that we can relish the pastimes of Krishna when we hear and read in association of devotees. I agree. Like I am, like, compared to what when I was reading on my own, since I started reading with other devotees, I can understand more, I can relish more, I can remember more. So I wanted to understand, Maharaj, what makes that relishable when in association of devotees?
It's pleasing to Krishna. That's what makes it.
Wow.
Krishna likes. And when Krishna likes, the devotees feel happiness because Krishna likes. It's not necessarily a conscious, because Krishna likes, I like. But it's, it's intuitive. There's this nice expression that how it works is gently, imperceptibly, there's the happiness of Krishna lifts. So the struggle consciousness is diminished and the elevated consciousness arises. Imperceptibly, gently, gradually. Therefore, sadhu sangha is so important. So there's certainly place in our devotional practice to read and chant, etc., on your own. And there's certainly place to read and chant, etc., in the company of others. And that it's that in the company of others part that has special potency. Although we're defective and others may be defective. That hasn't changed. But the pleasure of Krishna has lifted. He's happy. The verse from Bhagavad Gita, Katayantas shamam dityam tushanti cha ramanti cha. Tushanti and ramanti. They feel satisfied and happy because Krishna is satisfied and happy. Katayantas tamam nityam. Second?
Guru Maharaj, the second question is about the possessiveness of Krishna's friends. In material relationship, if somebody is possessive of someone.
If somebody does what?
Somebody is possessive of someone.
Purchases?
Possessive.
possesses.
They kind of don't want to share with others. Or it's kind of, it's mine, I don't want to share with
Yeah,
others.
that's the material contamination part.
Is that because Krishna was reciprocating in such a way that everyone felt that Krishna was their
Yeah,
possession?
there was no envy. Possessiveness without, without envy. If I possess, then if somebody else has a little piece of possessiveness of Krishna, then I'm left out. There's no envy. And the meaning of possessiveness is it takes a while. It's taken me a while because our acharyas use it over and over and over and over and over. So it tells that's really important. What is it they're intending to communicate or convey? There's no other possession. There's no other thing that they hold as important. It's that relationship with Krishna that's all important to them. And because there's no envy, if someone is giving Krishna's pleasure, there's no envy. Because Krishna's getting pleasure. That's the pleasure of the others.
So how do we get there among devotees, Maharaj? Then?
Well, it takes purification. You go from the spiritual to the material. From the material to the spiritual. And in between, there's bumps. And there's, I'm not there yet, and others that I'm with are not there yet. And you see how others are not there yet. You see how you're not there yet. And you stay with it. Because it's pleasing to Krishna. That's bhakti. What I do because it's pleasing to Krishna. And I'm not there yet. It's been that theme. We're all part of the I'm not there yet club. We're doing sadhana bhakti. We're not there yet. And even when we try, it seems like it's very, very far away. We make a little progress and then we sink back again. All that thing we've been speaking about. But the wanting to please Krishna, that's bhakti, the essence. Wanting to please, performing what we do, anukulyena krishnanushilanam, performing what we do because it's favorable and pleasing to Krishna. And the more that bhakti muscle becomes exercised, then the answer to your question, how can we achieve that in our association today? Each person, each one of us has the same opportunity. And as one in the group develops that, it's beneficial to all the others in the group. The bhakti shakti increases for everybody. When one becomes more advanced, and their association becomes beneficial for all the others. And the advancement is the focus on Krishna being pleased. And then, the free will is still operative. We're making choices about things without listing. We make choices about things, what we eat and how we spend our time and who we spend quality time with, and we're making choices. But the goal is not just about me, it's about pleasing Krishna. That's Krishna consciousness. That's the society of Krishna conscious devotees. Although we're in the sadhana stage, we're not there yet. We're less than perfect, and the others around us are less than perfect, and we know it. And they know that we're less than perfect, and we're on the path. We certainly want to associate with those more who have that bhakti spirit, and there's with some consistency. although there's something, that it falls short of being there, being a Brijbasi. That's what we were reading. Just the attraction for hearing and chanting in the association of others, like you were mentioning the first question. That's powerful in itself. Just the attraction, however much time there may be or may not be. Powerful. We have a long way to go. Okay, let's see if there's something else. Okay, online anything?
This is from Ravi Rambe Prabhu. Hare Krishna Maharaj. What is the destination of devotee following Vaidhi Bhakti but not elevated to the stage of Bhava Bhakti?
It depends. Depends on what state of consciousness they achieve by following the sadhana bhakti process. It depends. I mean, a very simple answer is, like Krishna said, if they haven't come to the stage of prema, then they're going to take birth somewhere. But, the ideal is to take birth in a devotee family, and next best is next best is next best. But, it depends what state of consciousness they have achieved in the sadhana practice, where their destination is.
The next question is from I Jung Zhang. Okay. Hare Krishna. If I don't feel satisfied and happy for my services, is that mean my services are not pleasing Krishna?
No. It could be you wish to do better. Again, it depends. Like, let's say it reverse. Supposing somebody feels, I've reached the goal. Who's that? I can't go any further. I've achieved the goal. I'm perfect. So if one is not feeling satisfied, it's, whatever it is, cooking or kirtan or giving a class or, decorating your deity or observing a festival, or, you can feel joy, but you can also feel, I made so many was less than, anyway. So everything depends. Doesn't mean I'm not pleased Krishna. Like, let's take Yudhishthira, for example. What was he feeling? He was feeling terrible. But that was part of his exaltedness. And to give Bhishma Dev an opportunity for Krishna to glorify Bhishma Dev, so Bhishma Dev could satisfy him. And so many nice examples. Rupa Goswami, after compiling his dramas, he was feeling not qualified. He wasn't feeling fully, I'm not even fit to sit in the assembly of the Vaishnavas. What to speak of feel sad. So those feelings don't mean that Krishna has not been pleased. It can mean different things, like Vaishnava humility, or going further or something. Next.
Thank you, Maharaj. I think that's it.
That's it. Okay. I'm used to many devotees having questions, but I think I'm going to have to prod the devotees that are normally sending in some online questions that haven't been doing it while I've been here. Okay, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.